there, thanks for joining me. I thought I'd do a quick tutorial on how to make a patchwork card, and it'll have a little bit of the big shot and tying ribbons and all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm not going to hesitate, I'm just going to go ahead and get right started. The first thing that you need to do for this card is choose your paper, and I'm choosing to use the Raspberry Tart paper. It's the Designer Series paper. It's double-sided, it's so pretty, like lots of bright cherry spring colors. So this is the paper that we're going to use for this card. I went ahead and I cut my squares, and we are using 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 inch squares. And this is what they look like. This is all the different squares, and I've already laid them out in a pattern that I want to use. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you how I glued them down. I just take my tape runner, put a little tape on it, and I set the first one right up in the corner. Just like that. And then I take the second one and just start layering them. And if you do this yourself, you'll want to go ahead and cut all your pieces out, and then I laid my pattern out and then I stacked them up how I wanted them to be laid out on the card. And for the top note die, which is what we will be using to make this card today, it takes 4 across this way, 3 down. So you're going to need 12 of these little squares. So I don't want to bore you with doing this whole thing, laying all these squares out. So I went ahead and pre-made one, but you get the idea of how to do this. So I'm going to set this aside, excuse me, and pull this one in. And this is the completed one. Let me see if I can get that up close for you to see it. There you go. Again, that's 4 across the top, 3 rows. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my big shot in. And for those of you that don't have this, you need it. It's a wonderful little tool. And I'm going to cover up my little blog sign there. Alright, to use this, I'm going to use my top note die and 2 acrylic pads. And you just make your sandwich basically. You're going to use 1 acrylic pad, your die cut, or your die, excuse me, and then I just lay this right on top. Make sure it's nice and straight though, because you're making this card like a quilt card, and you want to make sure to, let's see if I can get that on there straight. You want to make sure that your lines are straight. You don't want a crooked quilt. Alright, and then I'm just going to turn it upside down, put it in my machine, and turn the handle. Just like that. You'll hear some cracking and popping, and that's okay. I'm going to take it out and remove and there is my die. Isn't that pretty? Here's your top note. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. Set this over here. Oh, it's a heavy little thing. Alright, and I'm going to straighten my pad back out so you guys can see what I'm doing. Alright, now, excuse me. I'm going to take a standard size card, 4 1/4 by 8 1/2, and excuse me, 5 1/2, 5 1/2 by 4 by 8 1/2, and I'm going to score it at 4 1/4. Fold that in half. Score it, excuse me, burnish it, make it nice and flat. Then the next thing I'm going to do is take my layer Pretty in Pink, and I'm going to use some Regal Rose, and just to soften it up a little bit, add a little bit of extra interest to it, I'm just going to sponge around the outside. If you've watched my other videos, you know that I love to sponge. Just add that little extra something to your card. Okay, there we go. And then just use my mono and add this on as my first layer. Line that up. Alright. Then the next thing I'm going to do is tie my ribbon around my top note die. Alright, so I've gotten emails asking me if there was any secret to tying the ribbon, and there are a few secrets. The biggest secret is to practice, practice, practice. So get you some ribbon and just practice tying it. It's not too hard once you practice it for a while. So what you're going to do is take your left and your right, right over left, and then I pull it up and down. Put my middle finger to hold it and bring this one down, and then I hold it with my other hand and I just tuck this in here and I pull this one and then I stop and I pull this one up and over, and that's what gives me that nice flat look. Let's see if I can get that up to you. See how nice and flat that looks? So that's all you do. And then you take your scissors and cut your tails. And I always leave my ribbon on the spool when I'm tying my bows or my knots because I don't want to waste it. And if I cut the piece too long, I'll get too much waste. So with this bow, this is all that I've wasted. Hardly anything at all. So I've got that done. Now I'm going to make sure I got the bow exactly where I want it. Get it off that little point. And I'm going to move it over to the side. Then I'm going to run some adhesive on the back. And attach it to my card. And that's so pretty. So pretty. I love pretty things. Okay, I'm going to set this aside for right now, and then I'm going to bring in my stamp set. This particular card doesn't have hardly any stamping on it, but that's okay because it's still handmade, made with love, and it doesn't always have to have a ton of stamping. It's as long as it's handmade and made from the heart, that's all that really matters. And I'm just going to ink up my Embrace Life with my favorite black pad, which is the Stays On ink. Turn that over, and then I'm going to use the large oval punch and punch this out. And again, I'm going to use some Regal Rose and just fan out the edges. Okay, now I'm going to take some Kiwi Kiss, and this is our new punch. It's the oval scalloped, or scalloped oval, that's in the new mini catalog that's coming out. April 1st it will be available. And I'm just going to punch and add a little bit of mono to the back of this. Put it all together. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is just draw little dots with my white gel pen all the way around the scallop. This is another little quick, easy, add some interest to your piece. Okay. Set this aside. Bring in my little pop dots. And we're going to pop this up right down here in the corner. Just like that. Whoop. There we go. And that's it. That's all there is. Alright, now if you have any questions, you can visit me on my blog. www.imstuckonstampin'up.blogspot.com. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.